What makes a man a monster? Is it power? Is it fear? Or is it the silence of those who let him rise unchecked? Before we begin, make sure you subscribe to The Time Lens, where we reveal the darkest secrets of history that many want you to forget. Iddi Amin Dada. The name sends chills even today. To some, he was a clown in uniform, a dictator who puffed up his chest with absurd titles and childish theatrics. But to those who lived under him, he was something far worse. A butcher, a predator, a man whose laughter was always followed by screams in the night. His beginnings were humble and shrouded in mystery. Born in the 1920s near Koboko in northwestern Uganda, no exact birth date was ever recorded. He was a child of poverty, largely uneducated, but he had two things that would shape his destiny: brute strength and an endless appetite for violence. In the late 1940s, Amin joined the King's African Rifles, a colonial regiment of the British Army. He served in Burma during World War II, and later in Somalia, fighting against Somali insurgents. His size and ferocity impressed his superiors, but there were darker whispers, stories of cruelty, of prisoners tortured, of killings done not out of necessity, but for pleasure. Yet instead of punishing him, the British promoted him. Why? Because he was useful, a loyal soldier, a weapon in uniform. When Uganda gained independence in 1962, Amin was already one of the highest-ranking black officers. He quickly became the enforcer of President Milton Obote, carrying out brutal crackdowns against opponents. He was Obote's sword, until the sword decided it wanted the throne. January 1971. While Obote was abroad in Singapore, Amin struck. Tanks rolled into Kampala, soldiers cheered. Civilians, tired of Obote's corruption, danced in the streets. Iddi Amin, the towering soldier, became Uganda's new ruler. At first, the world applauded. Britain and Israel recognized him. Western journalists found him charming, even comical. He smiled, made outrageous jokes, and spoke of democracy. But behind that smile, the killings had already begun. Soldiers loyal to Obote were dragged from their barracks, shot, and dumped into rivers. The streets ran red, but the camera saw only parades. Then came 1972, the year that revealed Amin's true nature. He expelled nearly 60,000 Asians, mainly Indians and Pakistanis, accusing them of sabotaging the economy. But the truth was simpler. Amin wanted their wealth. Shops, factories, and farms were seized overnight. Families who had lived in Uganda for generations were stripped of everything and forced onto planes with nothing but a suitcase. The world was shocked, but Amin laughed, boasting that Uganda no longer belonged to foreigners. Businesses were handed to his cronies, soldiers looted freely, and Amin tightened his grip. But the economy collapsed, and when things fell apart, Amin turned not inward, but against his own people. By 1973, fear had swallowed Uganda. People vanished: students, teachers, politicians, soldiers. Even those who had once smiled beside Amin suddenly disappeared. Bodies began appearing in rivers, thousands at first, then tens of thousands. By the mid-1970s, over 300,000 Ugandans were dead. The State Research Bureau, Amin's secret police, turned torture into science. Electric shocks, mutilations, beatings to death. No one was safe. To live in Uganda was to wonder, would tonight be my last night? Would I vanish like my neighbor? Would my body float in the Nile tomorrow? And yet, the world still laughed. Journalists flocked to Kampala to capture Amin's absurdities, his wild speeches, his outrageous titles. He called himself President for Life, Field Marshal Al-Haji, Dr. Iddi Amin Dada, Lord of all the beasts of the earth and fishes of the sea, conqueror of the British Empire. A ridiculous mask, but behind it, blood was still being spilled in silence. By the mid-1970s, Amin had isolated himself. Once backed by Britain and Israel, he turned on them, accusing them of imperialism. He expelled Israeli advisors, embraced Muammar Gaddafi's Libya, and aligned with the Soviet Union. He became a loud supporter of Palestinian militants, turning Uganda into a playground for Cold War intrigue. But his grip on power at home was weakening. The economy was in ruins, shops were empty. Corruption was everywhere. Fear kept him on the throne, but even fear has limits. His own soldiers began to doubt him. Then, in 1976, the world watched Uganda in horror. A hijacked Air France plane was flown to Entebbe airport. Amin welcomed the hijackers as heroes, offering Uganda as their stage. But Israel launched a daring rescue operation, the legendary Entebbe raid, humiliating Amin before the entire world. His image as a strongman was shattered. The killings only grew worse. He lashed out at rivals, executed ministers, slaughtered entire ethnic groups he suspected of betrayal. The Nile overflowed with bodies. Uganda had become a nation of shadows, ruled by paranoia. But even monsters make mistakes. In 1978, Amin made a fatal one. He invaded neighboring Tanzania, hoping to distract his people and rally nationalism. Instead, it backfired. Tanzania's army, joined by Ugandan exiles, launched a counterattack. Step by step, they pushed into Uganda. Amin's army, once feared, crumbled. By April 1979, Tanzanian troops reached Kampala. The city fell. The man who had boasted he would rule for life fled. Iddi Amin escaped by plane, carrying stolen riches, abandoning the very people he once called his children. First he fled to Libya, then Saudi Arabia, where the Saudis granted him asylum. There, the butcher of Uganda lived quietly, in luxury, far from the rivers of blood he left behind. He died in 2003, in a hospital bed, never tried, never punished, never facing the screams of his victims. And so, the story of Iddi Amin ends not with justice, but with silence. But silence is dangerous, because when the world laughs at monsters instead of stopping them, the cost is always measured in human lives. Uganda still carries the scars. Families still search for bones. Survivors still whisper his name with fear. And history asks us, how could we let a man like this rise, kill, and escape? Iddi Amin was not a joke. He was not just a dictator with ridiculous titles. He was living proof that absolute power corrupts absolutely, that laughter can hide screams, that the world will often turn away until it is too late. This was the story of Iddi Amin, the butcher of Uganda. Subscribe now to The Time Lens, where we expose the darkest secrets of history that others want you to forget. Because only when we remember can we prevent the shadows from rising again.